news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. In my prior commentary about Destination Crenshaw, or Procrastination Crenshaw as we call it around here, I opine that sometimes neglect becomes a decision. I want to challenge my own neglect becomes a decision thesis in just a moment. This $100 million revitalization project was supposed to transform 1.3 miles of Crenshaw Boulevard into a world-class celebration of Black art and culture. It was first promised to open in 2023, then 2024, and here we are, still waiting, still suffering. The businesses along this corridor, Black-owned businesses, are suffocating. Construction chaos everywhere, shuttered storefronts, a community being bled dry by broken promises. So, I stand by my earlier formulation that neglect becomes a decision. But as I have thought more about the gross negligence, the incompetence on steroids, it occurs to me that sometimes neglect isn't just a decision. Neglect is the default position of some Black electeds. Not all, but some. They just don't believe that Black folk deserve the very best. They don't believe that we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So, we go from being constituents on the campaign trail to collateral once they're sworn into office. And when, for example, one is termed out of office and can't run again, but is still clutching the gavel of power, one thinks that he can stay comfortably above the fray while we anguish for years on end. The apparent attitude is, I'll just leave this mess for the next person to clean up. That's what it feels like, Mr. President, Mr. LA City Council President. But it's not just him, it's the local media too, Black and white, corporate and independent. Look at how little has been said about this never-ending nightmare in Crenshaw, year after year after year. Nobody at City Hall and nobody who's supposed to be holding City Hall accountable seems to care one bit about the safety and security of Crenshaw residents and the Black business owners who are slowly being strangled. Don't be fooled. This isn't just a construction delay. This is what disrespect looks like with a budget attached. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback. Live from historic Lamert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour, Two Conversations. It's Monday, so we will start the hour in dialogue with Dr. Cornel West, as per usual on Mondays and Thursdays in Hour 2. On the B side of Hour 2, a group of Chicagoans, led by Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, recently traveled to the Vatican to meet with the American-born Pope. The delegation was led by the mayor, as I said a moment ago, and included the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacy Davis Gates, who on behalf of her members presented Pope Leo with a strike pin. We will talk to Stacy Davis Gates on the backside of Hour 2 about their meeting with the Pope. In our third hour, Dr. Nassir Ghaemi, prominent psychiatrist and researcher specializing in depression and bipolar disorder, take us inside his brand new text, Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. I've been waiting on this book for years now. In the book, Dr. Ghaemi explores, and explains for that matter, how Dr. King's inner struggles with clinical depression and manic personality actually fueled his resilience, empathy, and visionary leadership. If you know anything about Dr. King, I mean the real backstory, Dr. King 2 or 3 times tried to commit suicide, starting when he was a child. So he wrestled most of his life with clinical depression, manic personality disorder. But that fueled, as I said a moment ago, that's the story that I love. It fueled his empathy. That radical love that King talked about is not disconnected from this diagnosis. And most folk don't know that about his past. And so this is the first book of its kind to delve into that part of the King story. The book, once again, is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. You're going to learn something about Dr. King today in this third hour, and I believe leave with a greater respect for Dr. King than you may have even at this very moment. So stick around for Hour 3. In this first hour, we'll talk politics and more with the host of the digital series Freedom Table and creator of the newsletter How We Win, Rashad Robinson, after I do this. Welcome to Monday. What a Monday it is. 2 or 3 things I want to bring to your attention right quick, and then we'll push forward with Rashad for the rest of the hour. In no particular order, there are 2 icons, 2 lions who have passed away today. The jury is still out on the legacy of one. The jury is not out on the legacy of the other. I start with Alan Greenspan, the economist and longtime head of the Federal Reserve, who has died today at the age of 100. If you watch NBC News, you see the reporter Andrea Mitchell, who I've known for years. Andrea's a friend, I think I can say that. And because of my friendship with her, I've gotten to know Alan Greenspan over the years and interviewed Alan Greenspan once or twice. Just passed this morning, ain't had time to dig into my library of conversations. But Alan Greenspan, likely the most popular economist, certainly the most maybe popular is the wrong word, the most well-known, there you go, Tavis, the most well-known economist over the last 100 years, certainly as it relates to government policy. And so much talk these days about the Fed. That's the same Fed that Donald Trump is trying to fire Lisa Cook from. We're waiting on a Supreme Court decision about that, as a matter of fact, connecting the dots here, whether or not Donald Trump can, in fact, fire Lisa Cook at the Fed. He pushed out Brother Jerome at the Fed. And now there's a new guy running it, but so much talk of late, as you know, about the Fed. But Alan Greenspan ran that organization, I think, longer than anybody. Again, since his retirement a couple of decades ago, he's been trying to make sure his legacy remains in a certain frame. He had no idea, I think, when he left, that his tenure at the Fed would be so hotly debated about the bust that came thereafter and the bubbles that were burst thereafter, and how much of that is being blamed on Greenspan. We'll get into this more in the days ahead. Invite some economists on to really talk about this, certainly as it relates to black people and to poor people. But Alan Greenspan, again, the longtime economist, longtime head of the Fed, served, under 4 different presidents? That's, 4 presidents. Alan Greenspan, now dead at the age of 100. There's the guy on whom the verdict, the jury verdict, is still out. The verdict is not out on Clive Davis. He was a hit-making titan in the music industry for years. He has died today at the age of 94. Rose from a mid-level position at Columbia Records to become one of the most powerful executives and shepherded all kinds of careers. Let me throw some names at you. This is the guy behind Barry Manilow. This is the guy behind our beloved Whitney Houston. This is the guy behind Janis Joplin, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. This is the guy behind Alicia Keys and Jennifer Hudson. This is the guy who brought back Carlos Santana, who brought back Rod Stewart, and who brought back, wait for it, Luther Vandross. We'll get to Luther in just a second here. Luther is our artist of the day. I had no idea that Clive was going to pass today. But when Luther was struggling, if you saw the Luther Vandross documentary recently, you saw when his career sort of hit the skids, he turned to Clive Davis, as did the Queen, Aretha Franklin. The list is long of all the folks who had their careers shepherded by Clive Davis, taking nothing away from the talent of the artist. Clive had a whole lot to work with. Let's be abundantly clear about that. But he was the guy that many people went to if they wanted some hits. We'll come back to Luther in just a second after I tell you finally that today is the homegoing service for the late, great Peabo Bryson. We did a whole day, 3 hours dedicated to Peabo in June, Black Music Month, when Peabo passed away. But today is his service. He passed away June 2nd at the age of 75. But today they are celebrating the life and legacy of Peabo Bryson in Atlanta. What a day, celebrating Peabo in Atlanta. Mourning the loss of Clive Davis, trying to figure out what the legacy of Alan Greenspan is. A lot happening on this Monday. June is Black Music Month. You know how we do it. Choose a different artist every day of the month, and we play the best of their catalog all 3 hours. And today is Luther.
Listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Let's do this.
We're heading into one of the most important election seasons in a generation. And with so much on the line, your health care, your economy, your neighborhood, you deserve more than sound bites. You deserve the full story. KBLA Talk 1580 is your trusted voice for political coverage, commentary, and conversation. From local races to national headlines, we bring you the insight and perspective you need to make sense of it all and make your voice heard. Between now and November, a lot will happen. A lot will change. But one thing won't. KBLA Talk 1580 will be right here, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and keeping it real. KBLA Talk 1580, the place for politics. Freedom is an endless meeting, so let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Are you ready?
It's the best of Luther Vandross, all 3 hours of today's program. It's June, it's Black Music Month. We choose a different artist of the day. We tap into the best of their catalog and weave in some of their best, all 3 hours of this program. And today, it is Luther. That's Luther and Janet. The best things in life are free. You know you've made it when you just say your first name, right? Luther, Janet, and you know what we're talking about. Going to celebrate Luther Vandross all 3 hours today here in June. Let's get it started for real with Rashad Robinson. Rashad, thanks for your patience while I set all that up. How are you today, sir?
Always good to be with you. I'm well, sir. I'm well. I'm here.
It's good to hear your voice. Good to hear your voice. Let me start with this, and I'll jump from there. I saw the provocative piece. There's a word, I think, that is appropriate for what I read. A piece you wrote called "The 250th is Bait. Juneteenth is the opening." The 250th is bait. Juneteenth is the opening. We all celebrated Juneteenth over the weekend, all kinds of activities. We were here in L.A., Rashad, celebrating the 5th anniversary of this station.
Yeah.
Let me just start by saying to all of y'all who came out, I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of folk. The line was so long, I felt bad looking at the line of folk trying to get in. And we got everybody in. But what an amazing day it was at the Beehive here in Southern California, celebrating the 5th anniversary of this black talk radio station, unapologetically progressive, and everybody was there, from the mayor to the city council to Lunell to Kenny Lattimore, who sang his heart out, the DJ Bad, and just all kinds of community players, and just everyday people came out to celebrate this station. It made my heart glad. I am deeply humbled and deeply grateful for your support for these 5 years, and look forward to doing the best to always, always, always earn, not expect, but to earn your trust. But thank you for the trust you put in us over these past 5 years. And we hope to, again, keep elevating and amplifying your voices. That's what we were doing here in L.A., but all these Juneteenth celebrations across the country. But I saw your piece again about the 250th as contextualized with the Juneteenth holiday. I'll let you unpack the piece, and we'll jump from there. You wrote it. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, my major point is that why the 4th of July is bait is that it forces us to look back and to spend our time responding to this idea and this symbol that, people who have no interest in our progress are investing in. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't enjoy the 4th of July or treat it like a holiday, but Juneteenth gives us something very different to pour into. It's not about the past, it's about the future. In so many ways, the celebration of Juneteenth was people taking that first step to what their lives would look like and what their lives could be. And it tells a very different story also about this country. I have hopefully a story that can, if we tell it right, can get more people invested in the idea that while deeply imperfect and incredibly flawed, the work of constantly remaking, the work of constantly changing and moving us forward is work for all of us. And that can be the story of this country if we want to make it that story. It means that we have to fight. It means that we have to hold people accountable. It means that systems have to change. But the 4th of July is bait. And this 250 is going to be bait for all of us because we're going to watch what the White House and Donald Trump does and the right wing, and there's going to be so much temptation to spend all of our time trying to respond and nitpick at it and point at the flaws in that. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, but when you're playing on someone else's field, you are playing their game. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that there's opportunities for us to be building our own fields, our own places, for people to have to respond to us, putting out our own vision about the future. And I think that that's what Juneteenth does. And I'm reminded as I hear so many stories of Juneteenth, not just the stories of the popularized stories of why we celebrate this day and people sort of understanding, our enslaved ancestors understanding that they were now free, but also the stories that so many elders tell that people already knew they were free. But like so much that happens when we win social change, it has to be implemented and it has to be enforced. And that takes a new type of infrastructure. And I hear the stories of the young black soldiers, many of them 16, 17, 18, 19, the ones that came onto Galveston Beach and were part of the liberation of those enslaved ancestors. And that, once again, is another story that we can tell. And so my hope is that we start claiming our own symbols proudly and loudly and unapologetically, because it in so many ways gives us a space to invite others into the conversation, but it also prevents us from spending all of our time responding, critiquing, and trying to fight their story and their narrative, which only has us playing on their field.
We all know this narrative, you get in where you fit in. You got to get in where you fit in. I want to come back to that in just a second. I raise that because I know there are a number of books coming out this year. A couple of them I was invited to write essays for, and I just at the time, with all the stuff I had on my plate, could not bring myself to find the time. Didn't have the time. Just sit and write these essays, and I'm sorry I didn't. And I apologize profusely to the editors of those texts who wanted my POV. It's always nice to be asked, right? So I was at least asked. I just couldn't fit it in. But my point is that if I'd had the time, what I was being asked to wrestle with in a couple of these different books that are coming out again just in time for the 250th anniversary of this republic is how we fit in. How do we get in where we fit in? Put another way, how do black folk in particular fit in the frame of what this 250th anniversary of the Republic actually means. Let's go straight there. How do we fit in this frame as you see it, Rashad? You asked this question on 50 different black people, you're going to get 50 different responses. That's why these books that are coming out will probably have some decent essays in them. But what's your read of how we fit in this frame 250 years later?
I mean, I think a lot about the word independence just as a frame.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to build the type of infrastructure that changes the way a country operates, the way a system operates. And black people have been sort of foundational to kind of what does it mean to build independent systems. I think about you and those that came before you in the independent media space, and black people have been the sort of creators in so many ways of independent media. We've been the creators of independent news, the creators of so many things. And you know, we had to do it because we were denied access to the sort of traditional legacy incumbent spaces. So we had to create independence. We had to create churches and institutions and all those things. But those things ended up becoming vehicles that shaped the culture and the prosperity and the possibilities of this country. And so, you know, I think a lot about, you know, the 4th of July. It's a day of independence, and how much black people have created the story of what independence looks like. And, you know, I actually contributed to one of these upcoming books that's going to be coming out, a compilation that Ibram Kendi put together, and in that, for Dr. Kendi's compilation, I wrote about the first black-owned radio station in Atlanta, you know, in America, which is in Atlanta, and Dr. King's office underneath that was in an old Prince Hall Masonic lodge, and the two tenants were, you know, the radio station that was on the second floor, and Dr. King's offices, which were on the first floor. And there's an old story that he would take a broomstick and knock on the ceiling, and they would slide the microphone out the window, and he would be able to speak directly to black folks, unfiltered. And so also the story, I think, of this country is how we've, even while being denied and being blocked from the things like the First Amendment and all these other sort of promises of the Constitution, we've found ways to make it our own, to make our voices heard, to leverage these documents and these promises that were never meant for us, and in the process have been sort of not only symbols for anyone fighting for equity and more freedom in this country, but we've been symbols for people all around the world. And even as I travel around the world, sometimes doing social justice work, I'm oftentimes struck by how many times people bring up Bayard Rustin or Ella Baker or other strategists of our movement, and studying some of the frameworks of infrastructure that were designed. And so I do think that what we've built and what gets exported and how the story is told of this country doesn't get told without us. And I think we have to be willing to both claim that and also continue to be focused on what we build next.
I'm excited for Ibram Kendi's book. I think that's the one he did with Angela Rye. That's one of the books I was referencing, in fact, that I was asked to write an essay for and just couldn't get to it. But I'm glad that Rashad got to it. I'm fascinated to read his essay, given though he's already teed it up about that office in Atlanta that housed the radio station and SCLC, the only organization Dr. King ever founded in his lifetime. So I'm anxious to read Rashad's piece and all the others that will be forthcoming from these black voices in a couple different books out this year about how we fit in the frame of America's 250th anniversary this year. In the top of the second hour, Dr. Cornel West will be here, and I surely want to get his take today on this dialectic, Juneteenth and July 4th. Juneteenth, July 4th. We'll let Dr. West go in on that, among other things, at the top of the second hour. But more with Rashad Robinson when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Vice President J.D. Vance is in the Swiss Alps for talks aimed at securing a peace deal with Iran.
Can we turn over a new leaf? Can we change relations in the Middle East permanently? Or do we go back to doing things the old way, which is not our preference, but is certainly very much something that can happen?
The negotiations come amid conflicting reports over the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran claiming it's closed while the U.S. says shipping traffic is still moving. Columbus, Georgia will see a historic leadership change after City Councilwoman Joanne Kogel conceded the mayoral race. Kogel says she wanted every legal ballot counted before conceding, as Isaiah Hughley prepares to become the city's first black mayor when he takes office in January. And a Chicago man charged with burning a cross in Grant Park has been released from custody. Merlin Liu faces hate crime and arson charges. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Stonefire Grill's Family 4-Pack is back. Feed the family for just $49. That's only $12.25 per person. Get chicken, pizza, pasta salad, and fresh-baked breadsticks. A $90 value for only $49. Order now at stonefiregrill.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The tennis world is buzzing again with the news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
Our voices aren't the minority opinion.
They're the American conscience.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
This is America.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
You know him, you trust him, and now the whole nation is taking notice. Talkers Magazine, the Bible of talk radio, has ranked Tavis Smiley number 14 on their prestigious Heavy 100 list. 100 voices, the most important in all of talk radio. Tavis has moved from number 45 to number 33 to number 16, and now he's in the top 15, right here on your station. His is one of the most trusted, credible, and reliable voices in broadcast media today. Straight, no chaser, always. Tavis brings you the conversations that matter, the newsmakers, the truth tellers, the voices that don't get heard anywhere else. Weekdays on this station, This is what it sounds like when your community has a seat at the table.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
I got your love. You need to look no further. Don't you know that? Don't you know that? After my love, you'll never need another. Don't you know that? Don't you know that? I don't make no promises I can't keep. And I promised myself that I'd love you forever. How many times must I say that for you to understand? Yeah. Don't you know that I love you so? Baby, don't you know?
It's the best of Luther, all 3 hours of today's program. We are still in June, and every day in the month of June, we choose a different artist of the day and play some of the best of their catalog. And so today we are celebrating the rich, and deep musical legacy of Luther Vandross, all 3 hours of our program today. We are in the first hour, and glad to have you with us. Rashad Robinson is our guest, social justice strategist, host of the digital series Freedom Table, creator of the How We Win newsletter, all-around great guy. Honored to be in dialogue with Rashad Robinson. Rashad, I raised this issue. I mentioned Dr. West earlier. He and I discussed this, I think, last week on this show, and Doc went in, as he always does, so brilliantly, so eloquently, so passionately, and so progressively. But there is, I'm losing track of all these articles that are being written. So I'll come back to this now with you to get your take on this. I'm losing track of all these articles that are being written about the fact that democratic socialism is the rave. It's the new thing. And every day you look up and there's some new person who's winning some local office. We don't really see the impact of this yet at the federal level, at the national level. But whether you're talking in New York City with Zara Mandami, whether you're talking about the sister Janice, who just pulled off this win, will be the next mayor in the district. You got a city councilwoman running here in L.A. against Karen Bass. There are other examples around the country, but the vibe is that democratic socialism is the new order. And speaking of getting in where you fit in, that black people need to be thinking not so much about the Democratic Party, but about this notion of democratic socialism and what that means, and maybe not, and whether or not I should say that is the answer to the prayer for us. About that notion, about these individuals, about these articles, touting DSA and democratic socialism, you say what?
So, Tavis, for basically the 4 years during the Biden era, I would talk to the domestic policy office in the White House pretty regularly, but particularly before the State of the Union, because Biden wasn't the best communicator, but the State of the Union was the moment where he had people's attention, right, and could cascade a set of things. And each time before those meetings, I would go and I would say, you have to tell a full story about what's standing in the way of change. You have to talk about corporations and corporate power and who's standing in the way. You have to tell a story about police unions. You have to tell a story about billionaires. You have to tell a story about the entrenched forces that are preventing the type of progress that you've promised. It just can't be about Republicans or Democrats, because people see them as two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. But you have to tell a story about where people stand and why they're not seeing more change. And they wouldn't do it, right? Because in some ways, Democrats are hoping for the sort of 1/3 that they get from corporations versus the 2/3 Republican gets, and they don't want to put that in harm's way. And so to answer your question, I think what people are craving is a story that makes sense about heroes and villains, because if we don't have that story, people will fill it in with immigrants and black people and trans kids and women's equality and a whole bunch of other stuff. And what folks are seeing from DSA is a clear story about winners and losers, about why things are stalling and not moving forward, about who's to blame for it. And I watched this very clearly as a New Yorker, watching what was happening here during this election cycle and watching this conversation about affordability, right? It got right past the conversation that the more moderates and even those in the right wanted to have about public safety, right? They wanted to have a conversation about more police, and Mamdani came right in about affordability and making this city affordable and addressed economics as both a conversation about safety but a conversation about prosperity. And and that's appealing for folks because the Democrats have been spending a lot of time trying to convince us to just vote for them because they're not the Republicans. And I think like that's not going to be enough to kind of get the kind of surge that we need and is going to be necessary, especially given what's happening post-Calais and the voting rights decision. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we're seeing. And, you know, the question is and I think a question that a lot of folks have asked of DSA is sort of where is their racial justice agenda and what does that look like? And I think that there's some work to be done there to make that more visible and legible for folks. And at the same time, one of the greatest threats to any type of racial justice is entrenched corporate power and the corporate enablers who constantly stand in the way of any sort of progress, both because of the profiteering, but because of the ways that the profiteering keeps the sort of current hierarchy in place. The rules of the game that benefit and prioritize the big tech companies and the financial companies that hold all of us back. And I do think that there's just something to that. And I think that the Democratic Party will do itself a huge disservice if they do not figure out how to be in relationship and conversation. Mm-hmm. But what's more likely to happen whenever you see these big disruptions is that DSA and the socialists will have to also figure out how to take over and how to engage the current infrastructure. And that's what we've seen from the Tea Party on the right. That's what we've seen from MAGA on the right, where we are in a populist moment, not just on the left, not just on the right, but on the left. And this populist moment is here.
Yep. I want to circle back to something you said a moment ago, because I've been thinking about this for a while now. As I mentioned, you cannot read as much as I'm reading, and you ain't got to read as much as I read to see all these articles popping up everywhere about Democratic socialists on the rise in the Trump era, certainly in down ballot races, certainly in these mayoral races, Democratic socialists on the rise. So say these headlines. I come back to that because you said a moment ago that they have to work, the Democratic socialists, that is, they got to work harder at laying out what their racial justice, their social justice agenda is. Exhibit A in that regard is that while Bernie Sanders had a platform that might have been the best for black people, if you delve into the platform, Bernie failed miserably when it came connecting to black people. And he had a couple chances at this, a couple bites at the apple. And both times, Bernie Sanders fell flat when it comes to black people. What is that? Zohran Mamdani did better in New York City. Janice Lewis George did better in a city like D.C. She is a black woman. She did better there. There's no evidence that Nithya Raman, the DSA candidate running against Karen Bass here in L.A., has any connection to black people. India Walton did not win the mayor's race in Buffalo, but she did better with part of the black constituency, not all. So the point is what you said earlier, that they're lacking, they're bankrupt. There's a hole here when it comes to all these Democratic socialists who are winning, asking for black people's votes in cities across the country, but can't really articulate a racial justice, a social justice agenda. My question simply is, what's that about? We'll delve into that with Rashad Robinson. I got a few other things to cover with him when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
This show was built for you, for the community, for the culture, for everyone who wants more than headlines, for everyone who wants meaning. Tavis Smiley has always believed that public media can change lives. And every single day, that's what he comes to work to do. You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Your voice, your issues, your show.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/
the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2026 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
When disasters hit and cell networks fail, Rapid Radios keeps you connected. Instant push-to-talk with coast-to-coast range. No contracts, no monthly bills. Trusted by law enforcement, government agencies, and over 500,000 users. Always ready when your phone isn't. Because in an emergency, seconds matter, and reliability isn't optional. Go to rapidradios.com. Use code RADIO for 5% off and free shipping from Michigan. Rapid Radios. Communication redefined.
Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. 5 years old, yeah, with more that's coming your way. Congratulations, come on, y'all, let's celebrate. Happy, happy birthday to KBLA. Look, 5 years deep and we're still going up. Built it from the ground, never real, no one else. Real talk on the air, then the truth get heard. Every day the proof getting served. He had a vision and he stayed with the plan. Now they tapped in from the beach to the land. Never back down, 7 days of the week, still going up now. We 5 years deep. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. Tavis, Smiley, you did it with 5 years today. Congratulations, come on, y'all, let's celebrate. Happy, happy birthday to KBLA.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley, Rashad Robinson, social justice strategist, host of the digital series Freedom Table, creator of the How We Win newsletter, and author of the forthcoming book, drops next month, I believe. It's called From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. You sort of teed that up a moment ago, but tell me more about the book, From Presence to Power, right quick, Rashad, dropping again next month.
Yeah, the book is a book about social change and power. It is designed for all of us that want to win more and are tired of losing. And the book is really a handbook in so many ways. It is set up to give you both lessons and stories about social justice campaigns set in this era, but real frameworks to apply every day to the fights, whether it's with a local school board or library or Congress. And I sort of walk through a set of frameworks that everyone needs to understand about change, and then I provide sort of steps about how to apply it to the various corridors of power, from corporate and business to big tech to Hollywood and culture to government. And at the end of some of the chapters, there's exercises and lessons that really help you move from analysis to action. But so many of us are asking the question, why are we in this situation? Why haven't we been winning more? And even when sometimes it seems like polling and public opinion is on our side. And I really want to help us understand what profiteering, what corporate power looks like, what we're up against in terms of big tech. but not just sharing all the challenges, helping to provide a set of experience and conclusions about where we go as someone who's been in these fights for decades and has won many battles and has lost some battles. And I talk about all of those and kind of provide for the reader a path forward. And so the book is the book that I wish I had when I first started doing this work. I'm getting a lot of incredible feedback, and I'm going to be out on the road in July, August, and through the fall, but really taking from presence to power into communities and really helping us build in the ways that we need, and not mistaking presence for power with a recognition that we have to work every day to change the rules about how society works, and then do everything we can to hold on to those wins. And that's the path forward. No,
you can be present and be powerless. So they're not
Absolutely.
the same. They are not the same thing. The book is called From Presence to Power: How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. It drops next month in July. When it drops, we'll have Rashad back on this program. But you heard about the book here first. Available for pre-sale right now, wherever fine books are sold. Once again, it's Rashad Robinson's new book coming out next month. Get it now. From Presence to Power: How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. When we come forward, that's a different kind of win, W-H-E-N, when we come forward. We're going to talk to Rashad about two final things. I got to get that Bernie question out the way. We'll come back to Bernie and these DSA members and why they can't articulate a racial justice agenda that matters, that sways black people, number one. And then we'll close with a quick question about the Black Freedom Movement, which he mentioned earlier. I think it's hegemonic, but I got a question about it. Two more things for Rashad when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
In a world full of noise, one voice cuts through. Tavis Smiley has never backed down from the hard questions, never shied away from speaking truth to power and to the powerless, and he's not about to start now. This is the show people talk about, the one your co-workers quote, the one that gets under your skin in the best way. Tavis Smiley, nationally syndicated, unapologetically progressive, unapologetically real.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org.
Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Rashad Robinson. I got 4.5 minutes, Rashad. Let's cover two things right quick here. First, the Bernie DSA question. Again, if you look at the platform that Bernie ran on, it's a platform that was good for black people, no question about it. Cornel West, who I mentioned earlier, campaigned all across the country with Bernie Sanders, and we can take our cue from that. So the agenda seems to be right, but these DSA members tend to have not the best track record of connecting with black voters, in part because they cannot articulate a racial justice, a social justice agenda that resonates with us very quickly. What's the problem?
Well, I think they just need more work, and I think that this is going to be part of one of their challenges. I mean, we've also seen folks that can come into our churches and clap on beat and then not do anything for us, and agendas are totally not with us, and will side with corporations and will side with those that want to put us in harm's way when it's most critical. So I do think they have work to do, but I think that there's a real opportunity, and that black communities are going to be skeptical if you don't name race, and you're not specific about sort of the forces that are standing in the way. And just like I talked about how I was pushing the Biden administration to be really clear about the forces that are standing in the way, and why you can't win some of the economic progress and some of the economic change that they're talking about without actually dealing with some of the underlying reasons about why we are in the situation we're in, and how racism plays a role in all of the sort of ways in which corporations are able to fleece us, and all of the ways in which our economy is structured the way it's structured. Many of the problems and challenges we're dealing with right now in terms of austerity in many of the cities are a direct result of choices that were made after the passage of the Civil Rights Act and post-1980. And the Reagan administration, and those were direct attacks on black communities. So the problems that DSA, many of them are trying to solve for, are problems that are resulted because people were pushing back against racial progress and racial change. You can't address those without dealing with racism, and that's going to be part of their work.
I'd raise another issue right quick here, and that is with regard to Bernie Sanders. We said a few weeks ago, Bernie has not been the most vocal for all that Bernie does right. He ain't been the most vocal on the gutting of the Voting Rights Act and the impact it's having on black voters, particularly down south. Bernie has not been out front. AOC far more than Bernie, but Bernie has not been as vocal on this issue. There have been all kinds of articles written. Speaking of articles written, so many articles written about where are these white progressives? Where are these white voices on this issue? Bernie has not been in the forefront of that. You can't then tell me that we should support DSA members running for office, and you can't speak out on voting rights. Don't get me started. Why are you supporting a guy for Senate in Maine who has a racist past? I'm going to leave that alone for now. I got 60 quick seconds here. The Black Freedom Movement is hegemonic, no question about it, but why are we then still in this situation? Why aren't we winning more? Do that, Rashad, in 60 seconds.
We have to begin directing our marches to the places that hold the power over our lives. And so, yes, we've been showing up in marches, and I was there in Montgomery in front of the Capitol after Calais decision, and I've showed up and supported this work. But we have to start showing up to the places that are profiting from this. We have to start, and I can't be more consistent about this, because I feel like we are doing a lot of things that feel good and that almost memorialize the past brave actions of our ancestors, and many people who are still here. But I think we have to build the next wave of activism, and that's going to be taking our fight to places that we can truly disrupt business as usual. And when I was in Montgomery, AOC was there. Just this past week, I was at a Juneteenth celebration at Gracie Mansion, where Zora Mamdani lives, or Mayor Mamdani lives. The next wave of DSA folks are finding ways to reach out and engage, And hopefully we can combine that with what does it mean to take our fights to the right places, because taking our fights to the right places is part of the effort that actually gets us to a place where we can win.
The new book comes out next month. We'll have him back on when it drops. It's called From Presence to Power, How to Take on the Fights That Matter and Win. Its author is our guest, has been our guest in this hour, Rashad Robinson. Rashad, talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
Cornel West coming straight up on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Vice President J.D. Vance is in the Swiss Alps for talks aimed at securing a peace deal with Iran.
Can we turn over a new leaf? Can we change relations in the Middle East permanently? Or do we go back to doing things the old way, which is not our preference, but is certainly very much something that can happen?
The negotiations come amid conflicting reports over the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran claiming it's closed while the U.S. says shipping traffic is still moving. Columbus, Georgia will see a historic leadership change after City Councilwoman Joanne Kogel conceded the mayoral race. Kogel says she wanted every legal ballot counted before conceding, as Isaiah Hughley prepares to become the city's first black mayor when he takes office in January. And a Chicago man charged with burning a cross in Grant Park has been released from custody. Merlin Liu faces hate crime and arson charges. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Busy night? Stonefire Grill makes dinner easy with the family 4-pack. A complete meal for 4 with chicken, pizza, pasta, salad, and breadsticks. All for just $49. Order today at stonefiregrill.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The tennis world is buzzing again with the news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
That's when somebody told me not to worry. They said love would surely one day be my friend, and I would never have it's because once you know how, you just never forget how to. It may seem kind of crazy, but it's a sure enough thing. Been tested and found true. Once you know how.
It's the best of Luther Vandross, all 3 hours of today's program, because it's Black Music Month, and why not? We choose a different artist every day and play some of the best of their music, so much of which is on the soundtrack of our lives, and I cannot imagine, and I know you can't either, the soundtrack of your life without some Luther Vandross on it. And as is always the case, at the top of the second hour, Mondays and Thursdays, Dr. West chooses his own walk-on music, and even if I'm playing an artist of the day, he chooses the track for an artist that he wants to hear. Doc, once you know how.
Luther, just we don't have a language, a category, or a label for his genius. And I think about that magnificent and marvelous event commemorating 5 magnificent years on this station, founding this station right there in Beehive. When was it? On Friday?
Friday.
Friday, brother. Lord have mercy. And I think because, Luther says, once you know how, you never forget how to love. And he starts with crying. He starts with tears. And I'm listening to my dear brother, Rashad Robinson, who I have so much respect for, that when you have the courage to cry, it means you have the courage to fight. Because tears are signs of either sorrow or signs of joy. But it means you're willing to be vulnerable. It means you're willing to dig deep into the depths of your own soul and come up with a response, a creative response, a courageous response to the situation. And we have been in a situation, a wonderful dialogue you were having with your brother, where politicians come to our communities and they want our votes, and we tell them, well, you got to come to terms with the police treating us right. You got to come to terms with poverty that's been haunting us for 400 years. You got to come to terms with reparations of justice of past and present. You got to come to terms with respect for us and our voices, and our voices are always various and in no way monolithic and homogeneous. Our voices are always very, very multi-dimensional. So we're lifting our voices. We got a variety of voices coming out of our community. But Luther says you're going to have the courage to shed some tears in the midst of struggle, in the midst of fighting, in the midst of throwing down, in the midst of bearing witness, and doing it in such a way that you're going to be a long-distance runner. That's precisely what KBLA has been. That's precisely what Tavis Smiley has been for these 35, 40 years you've been at it, and you're still a young brother.
Well, that's debatable. but I receive all the rest of the love. Let me just say 2 or 3 things right quick that Doc's got me going here. Let me start by saying how grateful I am. I said it on the stage on Friday to have Dr. West as my friend and my brother. We've been at this a long time, 35, 40 years. We've been running together, and it is always so moving to me at major moments in my life that I can look to my left or my right and Cornel West is standing next to me. So it means so much to me just to have his presence in my life. The presence and the power. Let me play on Rashad's book title, From Presence to Power. Cornel West is presence and power every time he shows up in my space. I'm grateful to him for being there, along with all of the rest of our team Friday who showed up for that celebration of the 5th anniversary of this station, and everyday people who showed up. I was thinking last night about my day oneers, the folk who've been here with me since day one. I'm talking about Dominique. I'm talking about Dominique DePrima. I'm talking about Miles Lowe. I'm talking about Deborah Shaw. I'm talking about Lyle Gregory. I'm talking about Ken Smith, the best production guy in the world. Some of the people who've been with me since day one at this station. All my day oneers were there. Grateful to them, as I am again to Dr. West and the rest of the team that showed up. But I'm glad you raised that, because when you link that to Luther Vandross, as only you can, delving into that lyric the way that only Dr. West can, it raises a question for me of why it is, if Luther is right, and clearly he is, if Cornel West is right, and he is, why it is that so many of us, Doc, resist that level of vulnerability in the fight back. We resist that level of vulnerability of shedding tears, and other examples I could offer. But there's this posture that we have, so many of us, of wanting to resist that kind of vulnerability that you and Luther say is necessary if we're gonna fight and win.
Yeah, no, but that's a deep question, though, brother. I mean, part of it is that we live in a culture that wants shortcut paths and push button solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you shortcut and push button, you ain't gonna shed no tears, brother. It's all about superficial strategy, and that's what we always talk about in terms of folk who want a brand rather than a cause.
That's it.
If you just a brand, you ain't gonna shed no tears because you just a marketeer. But if you got a cause, you're gonna be shedding some tears. Martin, Malcolm, Fannie Lou, Ella Baker, Rashad Robinson, Tavis, Smiley, Luther Vandross, James Cleveland, Curtis Mayfield, they shed some tears, man.
I want that just sit there. I want just to sit there for a second, and so it's sat. I got more to go. He just warming up. Dr. Cornel West on Tavis Smiley.
Just never forget how to. It may seem kind of crazy, but it's a sure enough thing. Been tested and found true. Once you know how, you just never forget.
Every day, somebody somewhere is trying to silence the truth. Not on this show. For over 3 decades now, Tavis Smiley has been bringing you the conversations that matter, the voices that challenge, the ideas that move us forward. From the halls of power to the heart of the community, Tavis covers it all. Real talk in real time. This is Tavis Smiley.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Let's do this. We're heading into one of the most important election seasons in a generation. And with so much on the line, your health care, your economy, your neighborhood, you deserve more than sound bites. You deserve the full story. KBLA Talk 1580 is your trusted voice for political coverage, commentary, and conversation. From local races to national headlines, we bring you the insight and perspective you need to make sense of it all and make your voice heard. Between now and November, a lot will happen. A lot will change. But one thing won't. KBLA Talk 1580 will be right here, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and keeping it real. KBLA Talk 1580, the place for politics.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
I fell asleep late last night, and I dreamed of the night and almost half the day away. I just got up so that I could hear her say she's still in love and no one could take her love away. Ooh, love wakes me up every day, and I thought no one could ever make me feel this way. It fills me up every time I hear her say she's still in love and no one could take her love away. I wanna be loved. There's nothing better than love. What in the world could you ever be thinking of? It's better by far. So let yourself reach for that star and go no matter how far to the one you love, to love.
I love that track from Luther and Gregory Hines. Both of them gone now. But the music endures, and we are grateful to Gregory Hines and to Luther. We're playing the best of Luther all 3 hours of this program today. There's nothing better than love, and Dr. West started this hour with Once You Know How. You weave all that together, and it's all about love, and that's why Luther's music is so undeniable. Say nothing of his prodigious talent. The lyrics are something to be wrestled with. And so we're celebrating Luther Vandross all 3 hours of this program today. I mentioned a moment ago my day oneers. He was not here because he's in Ireland right now, but Jay-Z, the producer of this program, was with me on day one. So before there were 50 stations carrying us around the country, it was just this one station in L.A. Jay-Z was there. He's still here, Docs. We got to give Jay-Z some love as well for being one of our day oneers here on this program, on this station 5 years later. That said, I want to give you some time. We raised this earlier in the program, but I've been anxious to get your take on it. And I want to give you all the canvas you need to paint, Docs. Take your time. Go as you will. But this dialectic of Juneteenth and July 4th. Juneteenth and July 4th. I'm done with it. Take it, Doc.
Well, Juneteenth has to do with the Black freedom struggle. And the Black freedom struggle is not just a political struggle. It's not just an economic struggle. It's also a moral struggle. It's a spiritual struggle. It's a social struggle. It's a civic struggle. It's the whole thing, just like our music. It's not just about one thing. The love, the justice, the tenderness, the toughness, the fight, the rage, the indignation, all of that is part of the whole thing. And so Juneteenth is about the Black freedom struggle in all of its various dimensions. And then you've got July 4th, which is about the founding of a constitutional republic on the lands and backs of indigenous peoples and on the labor and calling into question the humanity of Africans, we Black people. Mm-hmm. And so what you were calling a dialectic is one of tremendous over-againstness. Mm-hmm. It's contestation. Mm-hmm. It's conflict because it's hierarchical relations of domination on the one hand, of degradation on the other, and then here comes all of this Black love, Black joy, Black struggle, Black freedom, struggle for Black honor. And so you can't talk about one without the other because, of course, we're concerned about the whole truth. And history is what it is. I mean, history has to do with struggle and choices made and circumstances under which those choices are exercised. No doubt about that. But we have to deal with what was bequeathed to us, black folk. We deal with what was done to us. We have to work with what we have, and we build on the best that has been bequeathed and transmitted to us. And so Juneteenth is a moment of unbelievable jubilee, but it's a relative jubilee because slavery by another name was waiting for us. It was a triumph over Pharaoh, but new pharaohs were waiting for us, some of them even in black. Mm. And yet our joy, our struggle, our truth-telling, our justice-seeking continues.
I'm wrestling with this word contestation. I receive it. I totally get it. I'm wrestling with it only because I want to frame this question the right way, not because I'm wrestling with the thesis. But it's obviously not debatable. There's no debate here about the contestation of our humanity then, since then, and even now. So no debate about the contestation of our humanity. And yet that issue, as you raise it, makes me wonder how Cornel West specifically, how does Dr. West then process how we fit or maybe don't fit in the frame of this 250th anniversary of the Republic next month?
Well, one thing, you don't want to fit.
Mm.
You can't be a love warrior and a freedom fighter and not be a misfit.
Mm-hmm.
If you're concerned about fitting, then as Brother Martin reminds us, you just want to be well-adjusted to injustice and well-adapted to indifference.
Mm.
But what we experienced at the Beehive, and say, Anahita and I were talking about this on the way home with this big smiles on our faces, is that isn't it beautiful to be misfits in a society that's not worth fitting in? But be a misfit in such a way that you fall back on a rich tradition that gives you strength and a source of your perseverance and persistence.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing. Duke Ellington said black people have made dissonance a way of life. That's what the blues actually are about. That's what jazz is. That's what black life is. It's a form of dissonance. It doesn't fit into the C chord. It's got flats and it's got some sharps in it. Those black keys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what then is your commentary? I mean, let me go straight at Dr. West. What's your commentary going to be when we see you on all these TV shows that you will surely be invited on, CNN and beyond, to opine on the 250th anniversary of the Republic? Give us a sense of what your commentary is going to be.
Well, my commentary is going to be, we've got to zero in on the courage and the compassion of Emmett Till's mother, of Fannie Lou Hamer, of Martin King, first beginning at their humanity. Because when you talk about conflict and contestation, you're not just talking about political conflict. You're talking about conflict in the hearts and souls of black people. We got to fight back our cowardliness, fight back our greed, fight back our self-hatred, fight back our self-disrespect. And from that inner conflict connected to the conflict of white supremacy, against predatory capitalism, against imperial tentacles around the world, against all the different forms of evil coming at us. And so, again, use your wonderful term. I know you get it from Hegel, brother. I know you were reading Hegel's Logic last night. That dialect, brother. We need to have a dialectical read.
Yeah. One of the best things about having... I'm sorry. One of the best things about having Dr. West as a friend is that he is the ultimate book on tape. Cornel West is the ultimate book on tape. I'm reading books as fast as I can, but it is the case, even though his eyes are far worse than mine, although mine are getting there, it is the case that Dr. West still reads faster than I do. So I'm reading as many texts as I can to prepare for this show every day. And y'all hear the number of authors that come through here all the time. I'm grateful. I'm honored and humbled to showcase so many authors. There's so many shows that just don't do it these days. There was a time when there were shows that featured more authors, but me and maybe one or two others consistently have authors on their program. So I'm doing as much reading as I can. But the best thing about his friendship, one of the best things, he's reading books so much faster than I am, that I'm actually downloading stuff from him. So he'll read a book and give me a report on it. And so he helps me short circuit the work that's on my desk. One of the many, many benefits of having the brightest Negro on the planet as your friend. He reads fast. He downloads me. So hence his joke about the Hegel thing. What I do find fascinating about that, though, is I want to circle back to the Beehive, as you put it, where we were. For those listening across the country, the place we were at, like Doc keeps saying, the Beehive. There's an institution here in the smack dab in the middle of the hood called the Beehive. Black owned, black operated, and that's where we were for our event on Friday. And Dr. West is my friend, as you well know. So Doc, work with me here. I'm not saying this for Dr. West to big up me, to pat me on the back. That's not the point. What I'm saying, I'm asking this question for a reason. Given the conversation you and Anahita were having in the car on the way home that you just downloaded a song, which was beautiful to hear about, and I love the fact that you're already so deep in that dialogue. What occurred to me as I stood on that stage, as I walked around those grounds with these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of listeners and supporters, was that when I was told 5 years ago that we could not make this happen, one of the things, as you heard me say on stage that day, that troubled me was that I couldn't get banks and others to believe that black people cared enough about an institution like this that would every day be not playing music, although we are today doing Black Music Month, but not playing music every day. And I got nothing against that. Music has sustained us, as Dr. West and I both agree. But they didn't believe that a station dedicated to empowering people with an unapologetic agenda, a station that would be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, speaking truth to power and to the powerless, they didn't think that could work. Put another way, they did not believe, as I was trying to raise the funds to pull this together, that there was an audience of black people that had a thirst and a hunger for the truth. And as I watched that crowd the other day, it became so abundantly clear to me that they were wrong. They were dead wrong. 250 years later, black people are still seeking, still searching for the truth, Doc, and that hit me so hard the other day.
That's so true. And I think the fundamental truth is that people are simply disgusted with the proliferation of so many lies.
That's it.
And there's so many levels of lies. There's so many forms of mendacity that are bombarding people every day, that they reach the conclusion that they are hungry for truth, they thirsty for shattering the mendacity, but it's got to be done in a certain way, you see, because again, you and I always talk, brother, you can't separate the truth from the way to truth.
That's right.
And if you don't treat people respectfully, if you don't have a sense of character and integrity in your telling the truth, then it's going to be difficult for folks to hear the truth. Now, that doesn't mean that you pull back on your truth, because some folks just want you to follow their mendacity no matter what. And the mendacity is usually tied to money, 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 money. We can go back to the OJs for that.
That's it.
We can go back to the Bible for that. The source of evil, the love.
That's right.
Of money. But no, but you got love of truth, love of wisdom, love of beauty. I mean, Luther Vandross is about beauty as truth and truth as beauty. And so much of our musical tradition connects beauty and truth in that way. But in the end, we want to be forces for good, and we do it with a sense of humility. And that's what's been so magnificent about KBLA, brother, that your leadership has been one to bring together forms of genius with forms of generosity, forms of humanity with forms of humor, and forms of truth with forms of humility. That's the key. That's the bottom line. And that touches brown, white, red, yellow, gay, lesbian, trans, straight, whatever form of humanity that's out there, brother. So that's what people in the end are really after, love and be loved, and to be able to have some reveling in the truth against the lies.
Yeah. I did my best, y'all. He can't help himself. He's my friend. He is my friend. He can't help himself. I love. I appreciate the response. I love him just as much, and it's real. And that's all you need to know. The love between the two of us is real. I'm always honored to have him in this space. But it was quite a day, and so many revelations that came from it, man. I'm still trying to process it all, man. But I'm glad you were there, Doc. I appreciate you, man.
We love you, brother. You stay strong.
Dr. Cornel West is here every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour, and we are all the better for it. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Who's sitting across from Tavis this week? Leaders, legends, game changers, the people shaping the country and the culture. They come to Tavis Smiley because this is where the real conversations happen. No spin, no fluff, just straight talk and straight answers. Tavis Smiley, because the Kingian question, where do we go from here, starts right here.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz says the Trump administration is prioritizing preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
But what President Trump is doing is striking that balance with also ensuring that a genocidal regime that none of us trust can never have a nuclear weapon.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Waltz said that any potential deal with Iran would hinge on strict verification. A new AI art museum is opened in downtown Los Angeles featuring interactive exhibits that respond to visitors in real time. Called Dataland, the space blends technology and creativity, though critics are raising concerns about AI's role in art and its energy use. And singer Victoria Monet is hitting a high note, topping the Billboard Adult R&B Airplay chart with her single Let Me, marking her third #1 on the chart. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Stonefire Grill's Family 4-Pack is back. Feed the family for just $49. That's only $12.25 per person. Get chicken, pizza, pasta salad, and fresh-baked breadsticks. A $90 value for only $49. Order now at stonefiregrill.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The tennis world is buzzing again with the news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. In my prior commentary about Destination Crenshaw, or Procrastination Crenshaw as we call it around here,
I opine that sometimes neglect becomes a decision. I want to challenge my own neglect becomes a decision thesis in just a moment. This $100 million revitalization project was supposed to transform 1.3 miles of Crenshaw Boulevard into a world-class celebration of black art and culture. It was first promised to open in 2023, then 2024, and here we are, still waiting, still suffering. The businesses along this corridor, black-owned businesses, are suffocating. Construction chaos everywhere, shuttered storefronts, a community being bled dry by broken promises. So, I stand by my earlier formulation that neglect becomes a decision. But as I have thought more about the gross negligence, the incompetence on steroids, it occurs to me that sometimes neglect isn't just a decision. Neglect is the default position of some black electeds. Not all, but some. They just don't believe that black folk deserve the very best. They don't believe that we deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. So, we go from being constituents on the campaign trail to collateral once they're sworn into office. And when, for example, one is turned out of office and can't run again, but is still clutching the gavel of power, one thinks that he can stay comfortably above the fray while we anguish for years on end. The apparent attitude is, I'll just leave this mess for the next person to clean up. That's what it feels like, Mr. President, Mr. LA City Council President. But it's not just him, it's the local media too, black and white, corporate and independent. Look at how little has been said about this never-ending nightmare in Crenshaw, year after year after year. Nobody at City Hall and nobody who's supposed to be holding City Hall accountable seems to care one bit about the safety and security of Crenshaw residents and the black business owners who are slowly being strangled. Don't be fooled. This isn't just a construction delay. This is what disrespect looks like with a budget attached. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
It is. She caught me by surprise, I must say, 'cause I never had seen such a pretty face with such a warm and beautiful smile. It wasn't hard for me to notice her style. I was fascinated, surely. She took my heart and held it for me. I wouldn't let her get away, not until she heard me say, excuse me, miss, what's your name? Where are you from? Can I come? And possibly, can I take you out tonight? To the movie, to the party, I'll have you home. So let me know, can I take you out tonight?
It's the best of Luther Vandross, all 3 hours of our program today as we continue our celebration of June as Black Music Month. A different artist, a different genre every day. Last week, on Thursday, we did gospel, all 3 hours of gospel. That was fire. And today, here we are on Monday playing the best of Luther Vandross, all 3 hours of our program. We played Peebo Bryson a couple weeks ago. I raised that only because today is the homegoing service of Peebo Bryson in Atlanta. So they are funeralizing Peebo today in Atlanta. Another great artist, but we celebrate the best of Luther Vandross. All 3 hours of our program here on Tavis Smiley today. Conversation now with our friend Stacy Davis Gates. A group of Chicagoans led by Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson recently traveled to the Vatican to meet with the American-born Pope. The delegation, as I said, led by the mayor, included the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, Stacy Davis Gates, who on behalf of her members presented Pope Leo with a strike pen. I'm happy to have Stacy Davis Gates, slow down Tavis, on right now to talk about that trip and that meeting. Stacy, how are you? Good to hear your voice again.
I'm doing well. Hey, congratulations on 5 years, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We are doing the best we can against all the odds, and here we are 5 years later still standing and hope to go a little further. But thank you. I have had the honor. I know what it means. I went years ago to meet with the Pope at the Vatican, and this was Pope John Paul II, so I know something what it means to get that invitation to actually sit there in the room with the Pope. But tell me about your experience. We'll get to the details in a moment, but just tell me how this came to be and how you got in the delegation.
Look, this past fall, labor leaders throughout the Chicagoland area were invited to attend a trip there. My health at the time did not permit me to go, and I had the fortune of being invited again with the mayor's delegation, and of course I didn't turn it down. Twice in 1 year is a significant ask, and so Tavis, it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. I actually did not expect to have the level of emotion that the trip prompted out of me. You know, it was both spiritual and it was affirming. That a man who was leading very boldly with all of the moral conviction in this moment, that he saw people from Chicago and he affirmed our leadership and our work. It was what I needed.
Yeah. Unpack a bit more. You said spiritual, affirming, and emotional. All three of those words jump out at me. I think I want to just take them very quickly, a piece at a time. The spiritual piece really got me. What was so spiritual about the experience for you? Are you a Catholic?
I'm not a Catholic, but I am a Christian woman.
I got it.
And raised Baptist, but a Christian woman. And what I will say is that being in a space with a moral leader in this moment who is very decidedly saying that people matter. Remember the encyclical that he released was just days before we arrived. In that encyclical, he acknowledged very clearly and pointedly the role that the church had played in the enslavement of Black people. That means something to me, especially in a moment where Jim Crow is on a resurgence everywhere in this country, where fascism, Jim Crow style fascism, is basically taking our kids and putting them into prison and creating laws that take away our ability to be at the ballot box. We have new maps in Louisiana and Tennessee that are disenfranchising our voice. So to go to Rome with the Pope, who is a descendant of Africans, right? And to hear him say and acknowledge that harm, but also lead in a moment where we need to be affirmed. He has talked about the impact of AI, what it will have, the impact it will have on marginalized communities, and what that means to us as leaders in this moment. He challenges our voice. You know, I was in St. Peter's Square. You know, that is that's my disciple, right? That is the disciple in which Jesus built his church, but it's also the disciple who was a little radical and a little profane and a little in your face. And so to have that combined experience gives me an affirmation that people like me, people who fight for justice, people who lift up the lives of Black people, people who want to create safety and opportunity for Black children, it was affirming.
A little more than in your face. You'll cut your ear off if you know what I mean. We talking about Peter. Let me go back to this notion of how affirming this trip was for you. I've said many times, and I believe this, whether we want to admit it or not. Many of us don't want to admit it, but I believe that part of the human condition is wanting to be, needing to be acknowledged, affirmed, loved, and appreciated. We don't want to admit that, many of us, but part of the human condition is needing to be, wanting to be acknowledged, affirmed, loved, and appreciated. When you get that kind of affirmation from a moral leader of that particular stature who understands, appreciates, respects, and leans in with you in the work that you are doing, it does what to buoy you in the work that you're engaged in?
Well, it gives me a sense of urgency, quite frankly. It gives me a sense of renewed purpose and commitment. Listen, this summer, the members of my unions are going to be on doors, talking to voters, talking to our members about the world we have to create for ourselves in this moment. As a high school history teacher, I am compelled by the interracial, multi-generational organizing that helped to secure voting rights for everyone in this country. People have talked a lot about the Voting Rights Act, but what they don't talk about are the Reconstruction Amendments. And those amendments are the basis of which the democracy in this country is apportioned. If we don't have the 13th Amendment that abolishes slavery, then workers will never have a fair wage. If we don't have birthright citizenship, we don't even have the basis to create an immigration policy that is humane. If we don't have the 15th Amendment, then we don't have women voting, we don't have Native Americans voting, we don't have Latinx folks voting. The basis of this democracy on those three amendments come from the courageous movement, organization, strategies of Black people who were enslaved, and through the allyship of abolitionists, both Black and white. So I would say that being at the Vatican helped to trigger the commitment, the recommitment to this work, because it is hard, right? They're dismantling the Department of Education right before our eyes. They have taken the Civil Rights Division out of the Department of Education. That means when Black children are suspended disproportionately to feed the school to prison pipeline, there's no recourse there anymore. It means that special education students, which here in Chicago, the majority of them are Black and they're male, we don't have space, resources, or recourse for those children. That my members and their parents and our communities have to redouble our efforts to secure the humanity of those young people.
Stacy Davis Gates is president of the Chicago Teachers Union, just returned from a trip to the Vatican with her mayor, Brandon Johnson, and others in this delegation to meet with the Pope. I got a couple more questions about that when we come forward. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. 5 years old, yeah, with more that's coming your way. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA. Look, 5 years deep and we still going up. Built it from the ground, now the real knowing us. Real talk on the air, then the truth get heard. Every day the proof getting served. He had a vision and he stayed with the plan. Now they tapped in from the beach to the land. Never back down, 7 days of the week, still going up now. We 5 years deep. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. Tavis Smiley, you did it with 5 years today. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2026 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
When disasters hit and cell networks fail, Rapid Radios keeps you connected. Instant push-to-talk with coast-to-coast range.
No contracts, no monthly bills. Trusted by law enforcement, government agencies, and over 500,000 users. Always ready when your phone isn't. Because in an emergency, seconds matter, and reliability isn't optional. Go to rapidradios.com. Use code RADIO for 5% off and free shipping from Michigan. Rapid Radios. Communication redefined.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Stacy Davis Gates. So it's Stacy and Smiley for the rest of this half hour. She's the president, as you know, of the Chicago Teachers Union, just returned from a trip to the Vatican to meet with the Pope, a delegation led by her mayor, Brandon Johnson. I'm delighted to have her on to talk about that. You were making this point earlier, Stacy. I want to come back to this right quick. And by the way, we're talking about Dr. King in our third and final hour today. And of course, we all know there's a Chicago connection in Dr. King's story. But this new book is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. The author of that book, Nassir Ghaemi, is live in studio here in a few minutes. I spent the last hour talking about Dr. King today, which takes you back to your point earlier about meeting with a moral leader of the Pope's stature. I think something happens when a society is bereft of the kind of moral leadership that King and certainly others provided heretofore. We're in a moment right now where you certainly can't expect that kind of moral leadership from the White House if we ever could, but we certainly cannot in a moment such as this. What's it mean for us to be navigating the night side, the dark side of America without the kind of moral leadership that we crave?
Listen, I lament the loss of Reverend Jackson almost every day.
Yeah.
The type of leadership that he demonstrated over time, and by the way, locally, is sorely missed in this moment. But what I will say is what I understand, again, as a history teacher, that our liberation has always been a group project. Mm-hmm. That our ability to resist and create a path forward has always relied on our ability to create the community that we need and to support and resource the leaders who are willing to be courageous. So that's the motto that we're anchoring here in our union. That's why we're going to spend all summer with cohorts, quite frankly, of educators, both higher education and K-12 and pre-K. We're going to have conversations and we're going to have trainings that help them to meet their leadership moment. All of us are going to have to elevate. Again, if voting rights are stripped away from Black people, then all of what those rights enable are also stripped. So if women want to maintain reproductive rights, then they have to be concerned about the voting rights of all Black people in this country, because our ability to go to the ballot box enables gay marriage. It enables reproductive rights. It enables the continued funding of SNAP and of Medicaid, Medicare even, things that all of us need in this country. And so we cannot say it is a Black issue. It is a democracy issue. And quite frankly, it is a every household issue.
Stacy Davis Gates is our guest in this half hour for a few more moments. A couple more things for her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit Genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Knock, knock, Capital One Bank guy.
Wow, Charles Barkley?
I just moved into the neighborhood. Can I borrow some Wi-Fi?
Sure, Chuck. That's what the Capital One Cafe is here for, open 7 days a week.
Oh, can I use your ATM? My dog walker only takes cash.
Anything for a neighbor.
Can I try the catchphrase?
Sure, take it for a spin.
There's no fees or minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
Nice, Chuck. I'll take it from here. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bankguide for details. Capital One and name member FDIC.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Stacy Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union, who just returned from a trip to the Vatican, meeting with the Pope, a trip that was led, a delegation that was led by the mayor of Chicago, my friend, and brother Brandon Johnson. I ran the list of all the names, saw the list of all the names of persons, Stacy, were part of this delegation, and I'm glad you were in the number, as we say. But I want to circle back in the 3 minutes I have left to Brandon Johnson, specifically the mayor of Chicago, who led this delegation. We were talking earlier on this program today about all these articles that are popping up everywhere about how democratic socialists are all that right now. The new rays, the young sister Janice is pulling off the win in the D.C. mayor's race. Zohran Mamdani did it in New York. The other races, and all these articles keep popping up about how these DSA members are really, showing up and having their moment. You take that and you connect that to the notion of progressives who have been elected in various places around the country over the last few years. And it raises a fundamental question for me whether or not we really are ready for what we're asking for. We'll see how they treat Zohran Mamdani in the next few years. Karen Bass in L.A., where I sit, got elected with all this fanfare. Now there's a Democratic socialist running against her. I say all that to ask whether or not a progressive agenda is what we really want. I look at the poll numbers in Chicago. Brandon's going to be in a tough fight. No question about that. Everybody knows it. He knows it. He would acknowledge it were he here. He has acknowledged it's going to be a tough fight. So we say we want progressive policies. We say we want to do better. We say we want to talk about equity and not just equality. We say ... And then when we get that, you tell me, Stacy, are we serious about really wanting a progressive agenda in this country?
Absolutely, we are serious about wanting a progressive agenda in this country. Again, I take you right back to Reconstruction. That is the basis for the progressive agenda in this country and internationally. It was Black people who said we need public education, we need public health, we need public housing. It was the enslaved Africans who left plantations that challenged this country to create a safety net for workers, right? They were workers. These ideas of progress come from the pleas and the needs of formerly enslaved African families. We have to put our pole mark down, just like we did in rock and roll. That was not Elvis Presley, that was a Black woman. And so over time, we have always witnessed, observed, experienced the ideas of Black people being promoted and amplified otherwise. But let me be very clear, as a history teacher, progressive policy ideas come from our ancestors. Number two, whenever you are trying to move an entire institution of government to be for the people in a time period where you have billionaires making decisions about cutting food benefits for children, absolutely it's going to be almost impossible, because our country is fueled by those who have, making the rules up for those who don't have. It is about billionaires creating gates and barriers for the people to get what they deserve. And so progressive policy making, progressive politics, that is an idea born of the need of formerly enslaved Africans.
I hear you loud and clear, from your mouth to God's ears. We gotta keep pushing this agenda. The struggle continues. Stacy Davis Gates knows that 'cause she's on the front line of it in Chicago as president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Stacy, thanks for your insights. It's always good to have you on.
Hey, thank you for keep inviting me back. You take care, and again, congratulations.
Thank you, Stacy. We will do just that. When we come forward in I Found Out today, a conversation about Dr. King, the person I regard as the greatest American this country's ever produced. The book is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz says the Trump administration is prioritizing preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
But what President Trump is doing is striking that balance with also ensuring that a genocidal regime that none of us trust can never have a nuclear weapon.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Waltz said that any potential deal with Iran would hinge on strict verification. A new AI art museum is opened in downtown Los Angeles featuring interactive exhibits that respond to visitors in real time. Called Dataland, the space blends technology and creativity, though critics are raising concerns about AI's role in art and its energy use. And singer Victoria Monet is hitting a high note, topping the Billboard Adult R&B Airplay chart with her single Let Me, marking her third #1 on the chart. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Busy night? Stonefire Grill makes dinner easy with the family 4-pack. A complete meal for 4 with chicken, pizza, pasta, salad, and breadsticks. All for just $49. Order today at stonefiregrill.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The tennis world is buzzing again with the news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
When the story gets twisted, who's going to tell the truth? When they cut the microphones, who's still talking? When history gets rewritten, who remembers what really happened? We do. KBLA Talk 1580. Black media isn't just important right now, it's essential. Because when mainstream outlets move on, we stay. When the headlines ignore our communities, we don't. When decisions are being made that affect black lives in our schools, our neighborhoods, our economy, KBLA is in the room. This is more than radio. This is a lifeline, a record, a rallying cry. Black stories, black voices, black power.
The heat is on.
On the air and in the culture. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay connected. Stay informed. Stay loud.
Stand up! I speak to myself sometimes, and I say, oh my, in a lot of ways you're a lucky guy, and oh, now all you need is a chance to try any love. And in my heart there's a need to shout, dying, screaming, crying, and let me out. Where are all those feelings that I want to touch any love? What a world for the lonely kind. Sometimes I feel I'm gonna lose my mind. Can anybody tell me just where to find any love? Any love? You know, everyone needs a love, no doubt. Any love, any love. You know, everybody feels alone without any love, any love. And I know there's a love waiting to enter my life, into my life.
I'm Tavis, Smiley. That's Luther Vandross, and we are playing the best of Luther all 3 hours of our show today. If you are a Luther fan, you already know this. And if you saw the documentary done on him recently, he was asked what his favorite song was of all the music he's written, and this, Miles, is his favorite song. And it is because this is the most autobiographical song he ever wrote about himself and about his life. His entire life, for all that he achieved, he was searching for that love that he said he never found. And so the song is called Any Love. But you listen to the lyrics again, it makes more sense to you. Turn it up, Miles. Turn it up.
That, oh, everyone needs a love, no doubt. Any love, any love. Hey, everybody feels alone without any love.
Everybody feels alone without any love. So of all the songs in his corpus, and what a deep and brilliant corpus it is, this is the track that Luther said himself was his favorite song. Again, the most autobiographical of all the songs he's written. So if you want to know something about Luther, just listen to this song. And when you hear it again, slow down and listen to the lyrics of what Luther is saying to you about the life he had to navigate for those many years. But he's one of the best ever. And so we're celebrating the best of Luther Vandross all 3 hours of this program today, because June is Black Music Month, and we choose a different artist every day, tap into the best of their catalog, weaving in out of these conversations with great guests all 3 hours. And here we are now in this final hour of today's program, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. You walked in the studio a moment ago, gave me a big hug, and I said, you got it done. You finally got it done. The book is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. The author is Dr. Nassir Ghaemi. I always say Ghaemi. I like to lean in on it. Either one works for him, I think. But he's here in studio. He explores in this book how Dr. King's inner struggles with clinical depression and manic personality actually fueled his resilience, fueled his empathy, fueled his visionary leadership. We're talking this hour about the troubles that Dr. King had. We say all the time, you see the glory, but you don't know the backstory. King tried to kill himself a couple times as a kid. And so there's a story to Dr. King that you may not be aware of. But what Professor Ghaemi lays out in this book is that all of that, the depression and the manic personality, all of that fueled Dr. King to become the person that he became. And I celebrate the book because, as you all know, I regard Dr. King, I say it all the time, as the greatest American this country has ever produced. That's my assessment, the greatest American this country has ever produced. And so there have been so many books written about Dr. King, including my own. But I've been waiting to read this one because this is the first one written by a prominent psychiatrist and a researcher specializing in depression and bipolar disorder to get his turn at writing about this brilliant man named Martin King. And so I'm delighted to have Professor Ghaemi here in studio. How are you, my friends? Good to see you.
Hey, Tavis. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
How you feel about finally getting this done? You must feel relief.
I'm very relieved.
Yeah.
It's like a 10-year process. It's
Yeah.
a really long time, because you and I talked about it when you were working on your book, and you came across a little bit of what I had written.
That's right.
In an article form. And I told you I had this book in process, and that was 7-8 years ago probably, or so. It was a long time. So it actually, the work was a couple years long, but it was really hard to get it published. There was a lot of pushback from publishers, a lot of resistance to publishing something like this, but finally we got it done, and I'm here for my first interview with you, like I promised.
You promised I'd be the first, and I'm glad to be the first. And there's a lot to talk about in this hour. You heard me say a moment ago that the work took some time, but more challenging was trying to get somebody to publish it. I think I know what he means. We'll let him unpack it. There's a sense in which people feel like, you're going to demean Dr. King. You're going to degrade Dr. King. You're going to downgrade him if you write a book about his own struggles. And again, even though you're making the connection between the struggles and his radical love, his radical empathy, some folk can't make that connection. I'm not afraid of that. And I'm glad Professor Ghaemi is not afraid of it. So we're going to talk about that in this hour. Again, the book is called Soul on Fire. Just out, the first interview about the book, Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. Going to be a great hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I want you and need you to be still in love with me. Say you're gonna be in love with me. It's driving me crazy to think that my baby wouldn't be still in love with me.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Don't be anxious or confused about AI. Take control of your career when you get the skills to tackle real business problems and design specialized solutions. HR Dive reported that entry-level talent with applied AI credentials can receive up to a 25% salary boost. But where do you find training that you can trust? Future-proof your career and deliver more value with Humans Lead the Way AI. Their hybrid learning courses use practical definitions, real-world examples, and strategic insights to help you and your team understand AI with confidence. No magic, no hacks, no shortcuts. Just practical knowledge that helps you use AI more successfully. Don't wait. AI can never replace people who know how to use it well. Register for courses today at humansleadtheway.com. That's humansleadtheway.com.
Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. 5 years old, yeah, with more that's coming your way. Congratulations, come on, y'all, let's celebrate. Happy, happy birthday to KBLA. Look, 5 years deep and we still going up. Built it from the ground, now the real knowing us. Real talk on the air, then the truth get heard. Every day the proof getting served. He had a vision and he stayed with the plan. Now they tapped in from the beach to the land. Never back down, 7 days of the week, still going up now. We 5 years deep. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. Tavis, Smiley, you did it with 5 years today. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy, happy birthday to KBLA.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
That when I was a child, before life removed all the innocence, my father would lift me high and dance with my mother and me, and then spin me around till I fell asleep. Then up the stairs he would carry me, and I knew for sure I was loved. If I could get another chance, another walk, another dance with him, I'd play a song that would never, ever end. How I'd love, love, love to dance with my father again.
Another autobiographical track from Luther Vandross. That was the last song. And Luther was in rehab from that stroke he had near the end of his life, when this song becomes a major hit. Wins him a Grammy Award, which he could not appear in person to accept. But he finally went to the top of the pop charts. He'd been such an R&B sensation. But this song put him at #1 on the pop charts in the U.S., and everybody tapped into this song, Dance with My Father Again. And so sad that Luther died too soon, but beautiful in the sense that this song came out about his father and that relationship and went to #1 on the top of the charts. And so we're celebrating the best of Luther Vandross all 3 hours of our program today here on Tavis Smiley, because June is Black Music Month, and so we want to celebrate the best of the music that black folk have given the world. And so while we're in this month, we choose a different artist every day and play the best of their catalog. And so today we have been playing the best, and there's a whole lot to choose from. So many hits, so little time when it comes to Luther Vandross, but we are celebrating Luther all 3 hours today. We're also celebrating Dr. King. Of course, I celebrate Dr. King every day. It's not, I don't just celebrate King one day a year. In January, he's my guy. And I'm so delighted that Dr. Nassir Ghaemi has this book out. It's called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. In case you've just tuned in, he was saying a moment ago that it took some time, of course, a decade or so to do the research, but the real hard part was getting a publisher willing to publish it. And I get that. I'll let him unpack it in a second, but I get how you write a book about the psychology of Dr. King, that people may shy away from publishing that. So we'll get to that in a second here. Before I do that, and again, let me say congratulations, and start by what drew you to King? Again, so much has been written about him, documentaries, books, films, everything. But what drew you to King, and particularly to this part of the King story that has not heretofore been told?
So, well, Tavis, you and I met with my prior book, A First Rate Madness, which was published in 2011, which was about great historical and political leaders who had manic depressive illness. And Dr. King was one of those people. There was about a dozen people. But I found that people in different countries were more interested in relevant leaders, like the English, for instance, Churchill, the Indians, and Gandhi, who I wrote about. And in the U.S., King really stood out. But of the people I wrote about, there had been perhaps the least amount of documentation about Dr. King, the least amount of proof that I could really go on. And so I thought, when I finished that book, that maybe I could contribute to that by actually interviewing people who knew him, who were still alive. And I knew they were getting older, in the 20-teens, and they wouldn't be around much longer. So I thought I could contribute to the oral histories and to get that information that hadn't been out there, and document what I was thinking about Dr. King. So that was a part of the real practical reason to do it. When
you said document what you were thinking about him, it raised the obvious question: what were you thinking about him?
Well, the evidence that we had, which I've fleshed out now, is that he had a lot of clinical depression in his life, and that sometimes they were really severe, and he would go for weeks, not extensive periods of time, but weeks being pretty non-functional. And really the last year of his life, which you document in your book, where he was depressed the whole time. But in addition to that, in between these periods of depression, he was a kind of a high-energy person with what we call clinically manic traits, essentially, which had a lot of benefits for him in terms of his charisma and his creativity and his activity, but also some drawbacks in terms of some of his personal life and his impulsivity. And some of that was known, but people hadn't really connected it possibly to his moods, and that's what I wanted to do.
We'll talk about the benefits and the drawbacks. I'm glad I got you for the whole hour. There's a lot to unpack in this particular book. Let me just start with this, because you are a psychiatrist and we are not. We're just lay people here. Help us understand, for starters, what did Dr. King have? And I say have because I want to just give you some canvas here to paint. What is the diagnosis, if I can put it that way?
Well, so with the proviso that we always say we're not supposed to diagnose people we haven't actually personally seen.
I knew that when that word came out of my mouth. I knew that response was coming when I said diagnosis.
So the way we put it is not that he had it, but that he had everything that was similar to what people like that have.
Fair enough.
So putting it that way, he has the experiences that are very similar to what people have who have manic depressive illness. And that is depressive periods and then manic symptoms put together. That's what I would say the whole picture looks like.
Unpack that for me. Depressive symptoms, manic. Unpack that for me.
So we like to think not just about the experiences, but about the whole life course. Right. So when King was a teenager, as you alluded to, preteen, 2 times he jumped out of the second floor window of his home in Atlanta, and apparent suicide attempts. And it was described as such by him and his people around him in the 50s, and then kind of people stopped using that phrase after a while. So one time when his grandmother fell and he thought she was unconscious, he thought she was dead. The second time when she actually did die, when he was away at a parade and he felt guilty. So it showed that he was impulsive, very attached to his grandmother, and had some suicidal thoughts. Later in his life, like I said, he would have periods for weeks on end. He'd be physically exhausted. He would actually check into the hospital medically. They would work him up, and I've documented some of those hospitalizations, and never find anything medically wrong with him, and just chalk it up to tension and stress. But in those periods, he'd have no interest, no energy, low activity levels, and that's no pleasure out of anything. And that's the definition of a depressive episode. It lasts a few weeks, often months, in his case, more like weeks. And then in the last year of his life, the whole time he was like that, and many people commented on how depressed he seemed. This Andrew Young, Coretta Scott King, others used that term to describe how he seemed that whole time. So that's the depressive part. The manic side is that in between those episodes, he had what I would call some symptoms similar to what we call hyperthymia, which is a clinical phrase for manic symptoms as part of your personality. So being a high-energy person, he didn't need to sleep much. This is the first thing I figured out in one of my first oral interviews with Reverend Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who said that he hardly ever saw Dr. King sleep. He would travel with him, and he might sleep 3-4 hours a night. He said one night he tried to stay up and stay awake while Dr. King fell asleep, and he found in the morning that he couldn't do it. He woke up, and Dr. King was all dressed. So he had a 2, 3, 4 hours a night level of sleep need, which is extremely low, and a very high energy level, so that he would be traveling, for instance, 200 days or more out of the year, giving 3, 4, 5 talks a day. They used to send Bernard Lee, who was his young aide, with him traveling, and then he was like in his 20s, and Dr. King was in his 30s. Lee would get worn out, and they'd have somebody else ready to come out and replace him to catch up with Dr. King and keep going. That's the level of energy that he had, physical energy. He was a very talkative man. Again, this is all part of the manic traits, being talkative. They would say that he was always late for things because he would run into people and then he would just talk to them forever. It might be the janitor on the way to giving a talk at some auditorium. He'd say, "Hey, how's your wife doing? How are the kids? How's the family?" And he talked slow, but he talked a lot. And he also, so the physical energy being high, decreased need for sleep, being very talkative, very charismatic, as we know, massive sense of humor. Apparently he always had people in stitches, and Ralph Abernathy wrote in his memoir that if Dr. King had not become a political leader, he would have been a great stand-up comic. And I put a few of the jokes in the book too, making fun of other preachers. And apparently it was painfully happy. People would ask him to stop because they were in pain from how hard they were laughing. So a huge, massive sense of humor. And along with the high physical energy goes high sexual energy, which we can talk about, which gets into his relationships, his sexual activity, which was high. These are manic symptoms, manic traits as part of your personality, and they go along with the depression trait, depressive episodes that were briefer. But I think altogether, that's the kind of picture you see with manic depressive.
Yeah. You mentioned King talking to a janitor on the way to a particular event. One of my favorite stories that I tell in my book, he was in Cleveland one day. You may remember this, and they drove past a street corner, and there were a bunch of black prostitutes on the corner. And one or two of them said some things that were not so nice about that. They saw Dr. King in the car and said some things, one or two things that were not so nice about him. And they were headed to this event, and Dr. King, when they pulled away from this traffic light, said, "Turn the car around." And Andy and the driver's like, "Oh, Lord, here we go. Here we go, here we go." Said, "Doc, we're going to be late for this event." Doc said, "I understand that. Turn the car around." They argued with Dr. King. Andy, got in his feelings because he knew they were going to be late. And he did not see the value in Dr. King turning the car around to go back to a street corner to talk to a bunch of prostitutes. He insisted they turn that car around. I ain't got time to tell the whole story now, but they turn that car around. King gets out of the car. He stands on that corner for a good while talking to these prostitutes about why they would say that to him, how misunderstood they were about who he was, what his goals were in leading this movement, et cetera, et cetera. This is King. I would love to have driven by at that moment to see Dr. King on a street corner talking to prostitutes. But it's a true story. So to your point, he would talk to everybody and always was late because of that. The people he ran into on the way to where he was going, he couldn't get nowhere on time. Let me circle back to Bernard Lafayette. You mentioned Bernard Lafayette a moment ago, who just passed away, as you know, weeks ago. Literally, I think, as I recall, the word that Bernard had passed away came I'm on the plane to Chicago to funeralize Jesse Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And Jesse and Bernard, of course, were very close. So here I am flying to Chicago to attend the services of Jesse Jackson Sr.'s, Reverend Jackson's homegoing, and the news comes that Bernard Lafayette has passed away. So it was all happening right around the same time. But since you mentioned his name, one of Dr. King's faithful lieutenants, I knew Bernard Lafayette, friend of mine, interviewed him many times over the years, spent a lot of time with Bernard. But I've come back to that because I am curious as to how you got folk to talk to you. We'll get to the story later of how difficult it was to get this book published. How did you get folk to open up and to talk to you?
Yeah. So that was hard. And in some cases, not so hard. The first person who actually talked to me was Reverend Vincent Harding.
Love Vincent Harding.
Such a sweet man.
Vincent Harding, by the way, for those who don't know the story, you've heard me talk about these things 1,000 times. Vincent Harding was Dr. King's friend, Mennonite preacher. He wrote the Beyond Vietnam speech. That speech he gave Clarence Jones that assignment first. Clarence Jones failed at it. Clarence Jones just died a few weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't know.
We did a retrospective to Clarence Jones. So King gave the assignment to Clarence Jones to write the Beyond Vietnam speech. He came back with a speech and said, on the one hand this, on the other hand this. On the one hand this, on the other hand that. King said, Clarence, get out of here. That is not the speech I want to give. He calls Vincent Harding. Vincent Harding writes the Beyond Vietnam speech. The rest, as they say, is history, but that's who Vincent Harding was. Please continue.
Yeah, and Vincent Harding knew Dr. King from the 1950s in Montgomery, before Dr. King really became super famous. So I heard about him because I listened to the back then CD set of sermons, A Knock at Midnight, the collection of Dr. King's sermons.
One of the best.
And if you listen to Shattered Dreams, which is a chapter in my book, which was the last sermon he gave at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he talked about basically how he felt his life was a failure in a way. And he was trying to, as Dr. Harding said, he was trying to confess to the audience, which included his mother, his father, his wife, and his kids. Dr. King gives the introduction to that sermon in A Knock at Midnight in that series of sermons. And it's so touching, and I had listened to it over and over again. So when I decided to write the book, he was the first guy I wanted to contact. And he was out in Colorado. He was retired. He was really open. It was very easy to get a hold of him. We had 2 long interviews. And he was the first person that started to tell me a little bit about who Dr. King really was as a person. Reverend Dr. Lafayette was the second person I talked to. He was also very open, and until he passed away a few months ago, I talked to him 4 or 5, 6 times over the last decade. And he was very open, like the part about only sleeping 4 hours a night, never sleeping, and trying to catch him awake, trying to catch him falling asleep. Those were funny stories that no one had ever written about, because I think prior historians, they didn't care if Dr. King slept 4 hours a night. I did, because to me that meant a lot.
Sure.
We'll get back to that. So the number of people I found who were not well known to the public, like most people don't know who Vincent Harding was or Bernard Lafayette. They know who Jesse Jackson was, maybe John Lewis, maybe Andy Young, but they don't know these others. And those were the ones who talked to me. Yeah. They were the guys that knew Dr. King really well in many ways, like his chauffeur, a guy named Tom Houck in Atlanta. He drove him around Atlanta, and so these are the people that knew him but just aren't in the history books. Those are the ones who talked. The more well-known people were a little harder to get hold of.
Sometimes, as you know, that's the best source material.
Yeah.
Sometimes talking to those guys.
Yeah.
The book is called Soul on Fire: Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. The author of that book is at Harvard, Dr. Nassir Ghaemi. Glad to have him on this program. More when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz says the Trump administration is prioritizing preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
But what President Trump is doing is striking that balance with also ensuring that a genocidal regime that none of us trust can never have a nuclear weapon.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation, Waltz said that any potential deal with Iran would hinge on strict verification. A new AI art museum is opened in downtown Los Angeles featuring interactive exhibits that respond to visitors in real time. Called Dataland, the space blends technology and creativity, though critics are raising concerns about AI's role in art and its energy use. And singer Victoria Monet is hitting a high note, topping the Billboard Adult R&B Airplay chart with her single Let Me, marking her third #1 on the chart. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Busy night? Stonefire Grill makes dinner easy with the family 4-pack. A complete meal for 4 with chicken, pizza, pasta, salad, and breadsticks. All for just $49. Order today at stonefiregrill.com. Keep the excitement going at Citadel Outlets. Experience the world's largest soccer ball, a 20-foot spectacle, plus free weekend entertainment and family fun. Now through July 31st. Don't miss it. Plan your visit at citadeloutlets.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The tennis world is buzzing again with the news that Serena Williams is going to play in the singles competition at Wimbledon next week. The 44-year-old Compton native accepted the 8th and final wildcard invitation from Wimbledon tournament officials. Serena was already confirmed to play in the doubles competition at Wimbledon with her sister Venus. Serena's return to singles competition adds more excitement to her comeback and will certainly raise the hype at Wimbledon, the scene of many of Serena's triumphs. Serena won 7 of her 23 Grand Slam singles titles at Wimbledon and 6 of her 14 doubles titles with Venus on the same court. Serena's 23 Grand Slam singles titles is one shy of the all-time record held by Margaret Court. As a wildcard entry, Serena will likely face one of the top seeds in the tournament in her first-round singles matchup. Wimbledon kicks off June 29th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Number 14. That's where Talkers Magazine ranked Tavis Smiley on their heavy 100 list of the 100 most important talk radio hosts in America. Join Tavis weekdays, 9 a.m. to noon or 9 p.m. to midnight, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Philo's got that rhythm you've been looking for. A steady tempo of the biggest shows, an endless flow of hit movies, and the TV moments that match your vibe. From your favorite throwbacks to the hottest movies, the best of black entertainment all comes together here. With all the top channels like MTV, VH1, TLC, BET, OWN, TV One, WeTV, and so much more, their lineup hits just right. Plus, over 80,000 movies and shows are available to stream anytime, anywhere. And with the unlimited DVR, you can record your favorites, rewatch them for a whole year, and skip the ads. Because the good stuff is always worth a replay. Best of all, plans start at just $25 a month. So turn up the volume on your streaming experience and come find your rhythm right here on Philo. Sign up at philo.tv today to start your 7-day free trial. That's PHILO.tv. Philo.tv.
Please be advised. You may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, bean sprouts, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
Wait, what? I thought those were good for me.
Turns out, not for everyone, because what's healthy for one person can cause inflammation for another. And the only way to really know what your body needs is to listen to it.
Listen how?
That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple, at-home gut health test that looks at your body's real-time biology using RNA to understand what's happening inside you right now. When your results come in, you'll learn exactly which foods to eat, which to avoid, and which supplements are right for you, all based on the world's largest RNA-based human biology database and thousands of clinical research studies. And many people who use Viome report more energy, better digestion, and a better mood within months. So stop guessing. Start knowing. Learn more at viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase. Viome. Trust your gut.
Let's do this.
We're heading into one of the most important election seasons in a generation. And with so much on the line, your health care, your economy, your neighborhood, you deserve more than sound bites. You deserve the full story. KBLA Talk 1580 is your trusted voice for political coverage, commentary, and conversation. From local races to national headlines, we bring you the insight and perspective you need to make sense of it all and make your voice heard. Between now and November, a lot will happen, a lot will change. But one thing won't. KBLA Talk 1580 will be right here, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and keeping it real. KBLA Talk 1580, the place for politics.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Tables and chairs. We're gonna have us a good time tonight. Every time that we meet, we skip and we dip to the beat. Hey, what in the world could be better than getting together? Yeah. The last time we had a party, it ended when the sun came up. That's why your mama told you that you couldn't go out. Stay in the house.
It's the best of Luther here on Tavis Smiley as we continue our celebration of June as Black Music Month. Luther has been our artist of the day, playing the best of his catalog in so many hits, so little time. We've been loving on Luther all 3 hours of our program today. You know you got something when you got a psychiatrist from Harvard who's bobbing his head, patting his foot. And he's a white male, and Luther is still doing the trick. Such is the genius of one Luther Vandross. That white male I'm talking about at Harvard is Dr. Nassir Ghaemi. He's the author of the new book, Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence, a book I've been waiting on, a book that many publishers refuse to print for fear of something. Dr. Ghaemi, what were they afraid of?
Well, I think they're afraid of stigma, the effects of stigma or discrimination against mental illness, and the impact that would have on our appreciation of Dr. King. I mean, we were talking earlier also about people not talking to me. I think there was some reluctance among some people who knew Dr. King to talk to a psychiatrist about him, assuming that there was something psychiatric I was getting at, which was true, thinking that would diminish him in some way. And I think the publishers were also thinking, you know, these are big New York publishers, generally a very white, liberal community.
Generally is a kind and charitable word.
Yeah. And, you know, it kind of paradoxically, they're very afraid about being criticized, especially from progressives or liberal, especially from minority communities. So they were very touchy about it. Initially, I had a contract, then they backed out. And ended up getting published by Oxford University Press, you know, university publisher that was willing to kind of just go with trying to treat it as a piece of knowledge as opposed to worrying so much about the social ramifications.
I know something of those publishers in New York. I've written, 24, 25 books, and I've been in relationship with many of them. And the irony of it is that they, on the one hand, will feign fear for publishing the wrong book, but that don't stop them from publishing enough books by black authors. You see my point? So they'll feign this fear on the one hand, but look at their roster of authors. They don't publish enough black authors to begin with, so don't get me started about that. I ain't got time to go down that rabbit hole, but you take my point. Let's stay inside of King's Inner Circle. I know because you told me so, that there were people inside King's Circle who would not talk to you, some of whom did, in fact, talk to me. One of those persons would be the late, great Clarence Jones. So in my book, Clarence Jones tells me the story. Once he tells me, I do a little more digging. I get others to sort of confirm this. But inside of King's Circle, they knew the pressure he was under. They could see the depression that was on him. I tell any number of stories in my book, as you know, about King and how his depression played itself out. He would get up some days and get fully dressed and walk to the door of the hotel room, fully dressed, coat, top hat, and that mania, that depression would hit him so hard at the door, he couldn't get out the door. He would turn back, go back into the room, and fully clothed, fall in the bed, and all he could do sometimes was just cry and cry and cry until he cried himself to sleep. Cornel West on this program earlier today talking about the fact that you can't be a real leader. You can't experience radical love, radical empathy if you don't allow yourself to cry. And King did that a lot.
Yeah.
He would fall in that bed and just fully clothed, cry himself to sleep. And they just left him alone. And they'd come back a few hours later and he'd wake up and be ready to go again. But that mania would hit him sometimes so hard. I raised that because, again, they knew what he was wrestling with. His physician, Dr. Arthur Logan, knew what King was wrestling with. And there was a couple of meetings about getting King some psychiatric help. But the decision was ultimately made in that inner circle to not get him the help that he needed or wanted because they were afraid that if J. Edgar Hoover got that information, that King was seeing a therapist, a psychiatrist, all Hades would break loose, right?
Right.
And Hoover would use that against Dr. King. He'd already sent letters to his house saying, you ought to just kill yourself. We're going to get you. You might as well just kill yourself, right? So they didn't want Hoover to use that against him. Now, the irony of that is that fast forward to today, I was teasing Dr. Ghaemi a moment ago during the break, fast forward to today, here in L.A. and everywhere else, people brag about their therapist. I was talking about therapists last night, Tavis, or my therapist said. So everybody's got a therapist. Matter of fact, it's a badge of honor these days to have a therapist. If you don't have one, there's something wrong with you. But I still think that in the lane of, so there are a lot of VIPs who ain't got that problem nowadays that King had then. But say a word about the fact that you know now as well as I know that there were folk in his circle who were fully aware of it. Some of them did talk to you, but King did not get help.
Right. So Clarence Jones, who was his personal lawyer and was very close to him and was young at the time, so he was available for me to interview 10 years ago or so. He didn't talk to me, but he did email, respond by email very briefly, and did tell me for the first time that story about that Dr. Logan, his personal physician, recommended psychiatric treatment for Dr. King last year of his life, especially therapy.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, I think King knew, and he had talked to his advisors, and they said this would be too harmful for the movement. And that's what's really another paradox, is that it's a movement against discrimination, which still has the stigma in it, the discrimination against mental illness. So there's a chapter in the book, and this goes beyond Dr. King. You know, even Dr. Logan died under unclear circumstances, which might have been suicide. His mother died by suicide. James Bevel, who was the leader of the really organized Selma movement, was psychiatrically hospitalized and clearly had severe manic depressive episodes. Multiple people died by suicide who were activists in the civil rights movement that I briefly summarized in a chapter I call The Loneliest Minority of All, which comes from the story about Ben Clark, who was a young man in Savannah who was a leader of the student movement, later was severely psychiatrically ill, mentally psychiatrically hospitalized, died by suicide. And his friends tried to do a memorial for him, and one of them used that phrase. He said, you know, Ben was a activist for civil rights, and he was mentally ill. That's the loneliest minority of all. And I think that's one of the things I want to bring out in this book, was that this has been kind of hidden because of that stigma, which is really part and parcel of any kind of discrimination. But importantly, I think what we ought to really get to is what the benefits of this manic depression is.
Hold that thought. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'm going to get there. Trust me. We ain't going to wrap this conversation without talking about the benefits. We got a few more minutes to go here in front of us. We'll get there. Let me just do this right quick, though. And I don't want to study long on this, but since you raised it, let me just ask, because I can imagine getting ahead of the curve here, how people are going to process this. You mentioned the traits earlier of this kind of clinical depression, this kind of manic personality. You mentioned some of the traits earlier. One of them is an enhanced sexual libido, if I can put it that way.
Right.
So King has all these traits that you laid out earlier. On that particular traits, and so much has been said about that, is your research and what you've discovered about that particular trait, again, that he has, I want to phrase it the right way, is this new data going to be used as an excuse for those proclivities or an explanation of those proclivities? Excuse or explanation. Does that make sense?
Sure does. I lean towards explanation because it's more factual. So I think one thing we need to clarify is that there's a biology to all this. So when King had depression, it wasn't just because he was under a lot of pressure. He had depression before he had the pressure. He had depression in the early 60s and in the 50s as well. Some, and in his childhood, as we've talked about, and in his family, his father was a very hypermanic-like, probably had hypermanic-like traits. His brother, A.D. King, had alcoholism and a lot of suicidality, and his psychiatrist diagnosed him with bipolar illness, is something that I found. So there's a family biology of mood illness that has benefits and drawbacks, which we'll talk about. Now, one of the drawbacks is when you get on the manic side, you have a high sexual energy, you can be impulsive about it, and Dr. King certainly, it's pretty well documented now, and it will be coming out with the final audio version of the FBI tapes that there was a lot of sexual activity that he had outside of his marriage. And I think people are going to want to look at that, and some people are going to want to say, well, see, he isn't such a great hero after all. He wasn't such a great man. But I think that's what I'm trying to get at. We put him up on this pedestal where he gets this credit for all of his positive qualities that we put in some kind of a superhuman kind of way and make him this incredible hero, so that when we find out that he's got these flaws too,
that he's human,
then he can't be both, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But in fact, he's just human. He's not superhuman. So it's an explanation. When you have manic energy, well, yeah, that'll get you going, flying around the country for 200 days a year and giving those great sermons. But
it will also do et cetera.
It'll also give you the sexual energy.
Yeah, I got you. We'll talk about those benefits and those drawbacks when we come forward with Dr. Nassir Ghaemi. The book is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. 5 years old, yeah, with more that's coming your way. Congratulations, come on, y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA. Look, 5 years deep and we still going up. Built it from the ground, never real, no one else. Real talk on the air, then the truth get heard. Every day the proof getting served. He had a vision and he stayed with the plan. Now they tapped in from the beach to the land. Never back down, 7 days of the week, still going up now. We 5 years deep. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. Tavis Smiley, you did it with 5 years today. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2026 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
When disasters hit and cell networks fail, Rapid Radios keeps you connected. Instant push-to-talk with coast-to-coast range. No contracts, no monthly bills. Trusted by law enforcement, government agencies, and over 500,000 users. Always ready when your phone isn't. Because in an emergency, seconds matter, and reliability isn't optional. Go to rapidradios.com. Use code RADIO for 5% off and free shipping from Michigan. Rapid Radios. Communication redefined.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Now, there is no doubt about the fact that in our struggle in Montgomery and all over the United States for that matter, nonviolence is also practically sound. It would just be impractical for the Negro to turn to violence. He has neither the instruments nor the techniques of violence. We're about 10 or 11% of the total population of the nation, and I would say we're about 0.1% of the firepower. So it would just be totally impractical and unwise and unrealistic for the Negro to think of violence. Well, I saw this in the beginning in Montgomery, but this wasn't the basic reason that I turned to nonviolence and that I believed in it as a philosophy. I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country. Now there is...
Before we pause, I should say close, before we close with the benefits, we talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of the clinical depression, the manic personality that Dr. King had as described in this new book. We talked about the drawbacks already. We're talking about the benefits and how King ends up being that person that has sort of radical empathy and radical love. Most of us could never appropriate anything near what he had. But you can't disconnect that radical empathy. You cannot disconnect that radical love from the issues we've been talking about in this new book. It's called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. Before I get to the benefits, when you use the phrase in your subtitle, the psychology of nonviolence, you mean by that what?
I mean that it's hard to be nonviolent in general, and the way one can be that way from a psychological perspective is to have a radical empathy for your opponents. Mm-hmm. So I think Dr. King's nonviolence was a politics of radical empathy. He called it love. Mm-hmm. That's the more colloquial way of putting it, but maybe the more spiritual way of putting it. Mm-hmm. But from a psychological way, it's just radical empathy. That means you completely accept everybody, or you accept at least that there's some goodness in everyone. As Dr. King liked to say, in the worst person there is some good, and in the best person there is some evil.
That's right.
And that's where it comes from. And people with depression have more empathy than people who don't. And I think this radical empathy for him grew out of his depression, and that's also why it was so hard for so many people to follow him in it, because they were too mentally healthy. They were too normal. And so
wow.
That's actually a problem, you know.
Yeah.
You might get at it with a spiritual experience, with a spiritual life. You might learn to be more and more empathic towards other people. But people with depression, like Dr. King, they have it more naturally.
That's deep. The deepest thing said in this whole hour, and it's been a deep hour. But that last point, just maybe they were a little too mentally healthy to wrestle with Dr. King's radical empathy. Our remaining moments with Dr. Ghaemi when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through, or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed for 4 more minutes for Dr. Nassir Ghaemi. The book is called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. Many publishers would not put it out, but Oxford did, and I think we're going to be the better for it because it allows us to see all the shades of Dr. King, and I think leave with a more robust appreciation, a deeper love for who he was, given all that he had to overcome.
That's right.
But that's my assessment. Give me your assessment of what you think the reader is going to feel towards or about Dr. King once they get through the book.
Right. I mean, I think when I was living in Atlanta for a while, which also led to me writing the book, I used to stop at Ebenezer Baptist Church on the way to my clinic at Grady Clinic.
Sure.
And they had a sermon.
Grady Memorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had his sermons playing on a loop, and you listen to those sermons, and it's very touching. You realize once you get to know him what he went through. These sermons were not like abstract things. They were always descriptions of experiences in his life. And that gives you, when you realize that he went through all this pain and suffering and still did what he did, it makes it even more impressive. The quote I use in the beginning of the book is, "The salvation of humanity lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted," which is the phrase he used, the maladjustment. And his maladjustment, in my mind, was something akin to manic depressive illness. It's depression with some manic symptoms, and other people have different variations of it, but it may be good for the world and the positive aspects to it, which we'll talk about, but personally, you do suffer a lot.
Yeah. Draw for me one last, I got 90 seconds here, just draw for me one last time this straight line between this clinical depression, this manic personality, and that radical empathy, that radical love.
So depression makes you more empathic for other human beings. When you're mentally healthy, you're a little unrealistic. You're a little self-absorbed. You're focused on yourself and your tribe. But when you have depression, you realize that we're all much more human than otherwise, as they say, and that's that empathy. When you're manic, you also have creativity and you have persistence and resilience, and we certainly see that in all the struggles that Dr. King fought through. And one more thing about depression. Depression also makes you realistic. You don't overemphasize how much control you have over the world. And so that can really help in terms of navigating these complex decisions that a great leader of a social movement has to make.
Yeah, when you're facing the kind of death threats that King is facing day in and day out, particularly from April 4, 1967, when he gives that Beyond Vietnam speech, puts a target on his back, and that bullet chases him for a whole year. Until 1 year to the day later, that bullet catches him, April 4, 1968, on that balcony at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. And so, again, my work focuses just on that last year because I was just so fascinated knowing all that he was going through. But I am deeply grateful now that Dr. Nassir Ghaemi's book gives me even more than what I had when I wrote mine about who this man really was, what he was going through, and what these traits actually mean for somebody trying to navigate a life in the public eye. And so I believe, as I said earlier, that when you read this book about Dr. King, if you love him now, you're going to love him more. If you respect him now, you'll respect him more. If you revere him now, you'll revere him more. And if you don't understand him now, you'll understand him better. Once you get a chance to read this book, I'm thrilled that it's finally out, and I'm glad that Oxford had the courage to print it, to publish it. It's called Soul on Fire, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Psychology of Nonviolence. Its author is Dr. Nassir Ghaemi, who I've been honored to have had on this program, honored to call him a friend and a brother, and I'm just glad he finally got this thing done, and I want you to read it, Soul on Fire. Dr. Ghaemi, thank you for the work, thank you for the witness, thank you for the time and attention you gave to this. I'm glad you got it pushed out.
Thank you, Tavis. Thank you for helping me get the word out.
My pleasure. Happy to do it. Just like that, 3 hours are gone. Tomorrow, here once again, Lord willing, to do it all over. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening to Tavis, Smiley, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz says the Trump administration is prioritizing preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
But what President Trump is doing is striking that balance with also ensuring that a genocidal regime that none of us trust can never have a nuclear weapon.
Speaking on CBS's Face the Nation.